Hey, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I had a question asked recently from Michaela, and she wanted to know if I had any tips for basically getting out of your own head while you're narrating an audiobook. Because I can totally relate to her question because in the beginning, I was the exact same way. You tend to over edit or you focus too much on maybe you're breathing or not breathing or, inflection. And, there's all these things that you really have to keep in mind while you're narrating an audiobook to keep the story going, to keep it intriguing and interesting and, keep all the characters straight. And I totally get it. It's hard to remember all of these things that you're trying to remember and then still focus on the story that you're trying to get across or the story that you're trying to tell. And my advice is just keep doing it. The more you do it, the more you narrate an audiobook, you kind of start to find your groove. Things start to come a little bit more naturally. But while you're editing in the very beginning, try not to get too caught up in, removing all of the breaths or equally spacing out all of the lines or any of the other little, nuances that we tend to get caught up on. If you can, I always suggest if you have the time, if the rights holder has given you enough time, read through the book. Read through the book and make some notes in it. One of the best things that I have seen for character books, books with a lot of characters in it, is by taking a highlighter and highlighting the different texts of the different characters in different colors. And then give yourself a key as to, this character is this color, this character is this color. And that would help you remember different character voices if you're changing the voices for each character. Or you can make notes in the sidebar about, this would be a good place to take a breath, or, maybe this would need a little more inflection. Or if there is, an important point coming up, you can make a note to give this section a little bit more of a mysterious tone or get a little bit closer to the mic for more intimate. You know what I mean? But and also speaking of characters, if the rights holder wants different voices for the different characters, I guess it also depends on what type of book it is. If it's a children's book, then, your character voices might be very energetic, high pitched, a little comical and whimsical. But, for like a book with a lot of characters in it, the male voices can be just slightly lower and a little more abrupt, and a female's voice can have a completely different cadence. It could be higher pitched, they can speak faster, you can give them accents. And again, it all depends on the story itself. So that's another reason why I recommend to read through the book first if you can. That way you have a sense of where the character comes from, and, that way you can give them an accent, or if they have a speech impediment or something like that, about that. Because, sometimes those attributes aren't revealed until later on down the line in the book. So, another reason to read through the book if you can. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard in the beginning. I did the exact same thing. But in the end, it comes with doing, it comes with narrating a bunch of books and just kind of finding your flow. You know, Another thing that I have heard that helps with differentiating characters is to have a separate folder and have a sample track for each character voice and then name it such. So if it's a very long book and there are several characters, you can have a character file where you can click on that character voice that you have been using, and you can remind yourself of what that character sounds like. That is also a helpful tip for character work. But ultimately, my point is Focus on the story. Focus on the point or the plot or the emotion that the character is going through. Most of the mistakes that you make can be fixed when you're working on the track and post, but don't get too caught up with, removing those big breaths. Oh, speaking of breaths, personally, I find it more enjoyable when there's that human touch. When I listen to audiobooks, I'd like to hear, a breath. I'd like to hear normal pacing with a normal breath. The big breaths, if you've got this really long passage and you're having to take maybe a short breath, to break up a sentence and you have to take a big breath afterwards, cut those out. But leave in a natural breath unless the author tells you otherwise. If the author tells you up front that I do not want any breaths, I don't want any kind of distraction, then, take them out. But I find a natural breath is pleasant. I It helps to move the story along, in my opinion. But ultimately, it's up to the rights holder. But I guess long story short, if you mess something up later, you can catch it in post and fix it. It's not that big of a deal, but don't focus so much on, spending hours and hours on the post process. But if you're narrating a book for ACX, you have to submit the first 15 minutes to the rights holder for approval anyway. So if you leave some of those natural breaths in and edit it a little bit more, it's like it's a natural flow. Take out the mouth clicks, take out the big long pauses, take out the big breaths, but, leave it kind of like a natural flow and send it to your rights holder and see what they say. They might say it's too slow, and then you would go back and remove some of those pauses, or it's too fast. You can add a few more pauses or, longer spaces between sentences or paragraphs. So the rights holder ultimately will tell you what they think of it, and then you can adjust it before you read the remainder of the book. So you have that to keep in mind as well. But ultimately, don't get too caught up in the editing and beat yourself up that, it's not right or I did too much, I did too little. Don't get so nitpicky about yourself. I know it's weird in the beginning to hear yourself talk and you want to just kind of, obsess on every little noise and thing, but just don't. Audiobooks are created to have a book read to someone who doesn't either have the time or can't. So you're just reading a book to someone for entertainment or educational purposes. Just make it enjoyable and see what your rights holder says. And that brings us to the end of this video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I just checked, we're at like 650 subscribers. That just absolutely blows my mind. But thank you so much for everyone that watches and subscribes. I really appreciate you. It is real validation for, the effort I take in making these videos for you. So thank you so much. And if you have any other questions or comments, you can leave them down below. Visit my website, voiceoverangela.com. I have a chat box there as well as a VO workshop that I am launching on January 15th. I am still diligently working away on it, but there I will have access to one-on-one sessions with me. I'll have some courses available. I'm trying to get that done as soon as possible, but thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.